this is day 9. And there's only 15 total. Does that sound right? No. Yeah, 3 times. 13, no. Yeah, 15 total. We talked about the security plan for your business. And you need to be making a list of items that would fit the security plan. Okay? I suggest you write them down somewhere, but you need to somewhere start making a list of things. As we talk about things like updates and patches, how does the company you're working, the company you're working with, how do they handle patches? Do they have a policy? When to put them in, is it automatic, and so forth. So, overview of what we did today. Systems and devices, we talked about operating systems, host-based, antivirus, a little bit about VPNs, and the students define the word hardening. How to make the system more secure, I believe was what one of the students said. We talk about data later, a little bit about backup, cloning, creating images, to actually, you can use an image to create more images. Like if we need a new workstation in one of the labs, we have previously cloned an image, and we clone the image. The computer would connect to the network. You would set up the BIOS to connect to the network, then the network would download some software, and then that software could be used to connect to the network, download the image. We didn't get to it entirely. A little bit of physical, remote access, we did talk a little bit about servers, privilege accounts, zero trust. We're going to talk more about that on Wednesday, and group policies. This whole idea of directory services that allow us to create roles and so forth. Power and HVAC, hardware monitoring, networks, and ACLs. So then we mostly talking about end devices. And as you can see here, we talked about the internal network, and we talked about this north-south traffic going out to an untrusted network, and then east-west traffic moving within your internal network. We talked about this whole idea of, using the color here, it's hard to see, but this whole idea of access, the edge of coming into your network. Your users, whether they're coming into an AP there or whether they're wired into a switch, we have users coming in. And then we talk later on about host-based antivirus, firewalls, IDS. Those things can be right on our host connected to our network. So we talked about antivirus, anti-malware, talked a little bit about the comparison, talked about patches and updates. In some businesses, they test all the updates before they put them in to make sure there's no problems. These processes are slowly giving way to being machine managed using artificial intelligence. I gave an example where a company had Win 7, they couldn't update them because of their PLCs, programmable logic controllers, so they created an air gap. Alright, so we talked about VPNs. Oh yeah, we talked about this example where there's an air gap from their internal network to the network where they have this equipment, and then they move the information back and forth by use of a biometric USB drive, so only certain people could use it. Okay, so VPNs, Wi-Fi, we already talked about security here, and then the students worked on a lab. Okay, we talked about Windows security app, and then they did some works here, talking about hardening, or at least an audit, a system audit on the security of a Linux box. Important to manage the host, and we talked about network access control briefly, managing these devices connecting in. Yeah, move on to the next. You'd think we had talked enough about data. Now, files, directories, subdirectories, put those together in some type of path. Okay, and the term folders. You could also, I don't mind if you use folders. I'm just used to using directory. What kind of files? Oh, we talked about executables, sound files, documents, images, and so we have all these, different kinds of files that we organize on hard drives. Okay, and the key thing here we talked about are permissions. What kind of permissions are you going to have on those files? How can somebody access it? And then we re-emphasize the principle of least privilege. We talk about an administrator or root being at the highest layer. We talked a little bit about abstraction. One layer doesn't really know what's at the other layer, kind of at the OSI model. Transport layer sends something down. Well, network layer puts the addressing on it, and it doesn't care about the layer below either. It just sends it down. Okay. Then we talked about users, and then the range in between there of what privileges or permissions you give. Also talked a little bit down here, the default. What default permissions occur when somebody creates a new directory? And if they can create a discretionary, right? If a user can create their own directories, it's discretionary type of privilege. And then do those same privileges fall then to all the subdirectories underneath? It's how you want to design it. We talked a lot about encryption, whether you're encrypting a